No one has a monopoly on the truth. Our version of our own truths are based on our own lived experiences. In this space, we welcome different perspectives to learn, unlearn, and enlighten. Welcome to The Lantern.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lantern Podcast. I'm so excited to have Shagy Vahabzadeh. I hope I've said your surname correctly. It's been a while since I've had to say that one as my podcast guest. I'm just going to give a brief introduction of Shagy. Shagy is the founder and lead designer at SVS Interior Designs, and she specializes in commercial and residential interior design. She has a great eye for detail. When you guys go onto Shagy's website, you'll see everything is beautifully laid out. And I was really interested in speaking to Shagy because I have now found a new appreciation for people within the creative space. Now that I've come into that space, I've actually had an appreciation of how difficult it is. So I'm really excited to pick Shagy's brain about how she's so creative and how she's managed to maintain her creativity. So Shagy, welcome to the Lantern Podcast, and please introduce yourself to the guests from your own perspective.
So much, Khanyi, and thank you for having me on your show. So I back to how I got into interior design and the background of SV Interiors. I've always had a passion for more creative. Since I've been a little girl, I've always been more creative side of things. Even when it came to school, I was more interested in art classes and dance classes and with the sports even. Then more getting in touch with my creativity. And I think it all starts when you are, it's kind of in you, and you grow into it. So, and then going back into getting into interior architecture, I studied interior architecture at Greenside Design Center. I got my Bachelor of Arts in Interior Architecture. I worked for really stunning, amazing companies that I got amazing experience from. And then eventually I wanted to, be independent and start my own design firm and just be a bit more, being able to design with freedom, being able to design with more my side of designing and showing my way of looking at rooms or looking at spaces and being that creative side of me.
Wow. I love that. And I do want us to actually go to the genesis, because you mentioned when you were a little girl, you were already interested in the creative side of things, right? So do you think that that's something that you just were always drawn to, or what exactly ignited that creativity? Why do you think you were interested in the things you were interested in?
I think it actually comes from my mom, to be honest with you, because growing up in Iran, women were home based, and my mom used to love every day there would be something new in the house. There'll be a new couch, and then sometimes she'd want to reupholster the chair and reupholster the couch. And I was always involved in helping her. Doing those things, choosing decor. Even I remember my mom said when I was like 3, 4 years old that I would, whenever we went to the shops, I would always choose my own clothes. I'd say, no, I want this color and I would want that skirt. And it always amused her how I knew what I wanted since I've been 3, 4 years old, even in my own personal style. So yeah, I feel like it's something that was in me, kind of.
It's quite an interesting story because, just with how society is, and I think how people perceive creativity, particularly parents, I think when you mention anything within the creative space. It's sort of like shut down. Um, so do you think like within your family, it's not something that was shut down? Your mom was very encouraging for you to expand on your creativity. Do you think that's how you've managed to maintain that creativity since you've been a little girl?
Definitely. It was never shut down. Even I remember wanting to do art classes when I was 5, 6 years old after school, and it was never, and it was just to be more, it was a higher class of art. It wasn't just going for normal, like, children art. And my mom was very encouraging towards that. She organized classes. It would be a bus that would fetch me after hours of school, and then I'd go do my thing, come back. And also, it kind of runs through the family because my sister's an architecture as well, and she studied architecture. So I feel like it was definitely something that was allowed, and that's the beauty of allowing people to be who they want to be from such a young age and not shutting it down. Because also, if you look back, with creativity and those kind of industries, it was always something that people did on the side. Where with me and my sister, it was something we actually did as our job. It was something that we loved, and we made it our job.
So I find that interesting that you say, it's something that people do on the side, yet, you're doing it as a full time. And obviously, you both are doing an amazing job. But would you say that you experience any backlash from people who, look at it and still think it might not necessarily be a real job, or maybe don't think it's as prestigious as it actually is?
It's actually, it hasn't been backlash, but there's always a misunderstanding of a interior decorator and an interior architect. Sometimes when people refer, oh, she's just an interior decorator, and then they actually see the work that I do, the drawings that I produce, the technical side of things, and they're like, wow, this is actually, and it's actually been a lot with my suppliers. They're like, wow, there's a lot of work that goes into this, and they understand that if it wasn't for people like us that would create those understand drawings, or this providing those that background, it wouldn't be they wouldn't they it wouldn't be possible. So in terms of backlash, I would say, like, it's just that people underestimate you when they first say, oh, it's just an interior decorator, and then they see all the work that goes into it, and they're like, oh, we actually couldn't do it without having all of these details, because there's a lot of details that go into it.
I love that. And I mean, I have to excuse myself. I said interior design in the beginning. So if you can educate us, there is a difference now from what I'm understanding from you, difference between interior design and interior, you used another word, interior architect, I think it was. Like, can you please educate
Interior
us what's the
architect.
difference?
So interior design and interior architect are the same, let's put it that way. But interior decorator is completely
Hmm.
different. Interior decorator is someone that you've now finished the house, and they'll come in and put in, like, let's say they'll nothing will be custom. They can go to a store and be like, this will look nice there, that will look nice there. And, they can put it together with nice little pieces. And it's still a beautiful job, nothing to take away from the job. I actually respect a lot of people who do have the eye for it, because even that itself is difficult. But in terms of interior architect and an interior designer, we actually learn how to use architectural programs like Revit, AutoCAD, and we have to do the drawings ourselves. So, for example, we do the floor finishes of the house. So literally, when the house is under construction, we go in there and we choose the tiles, we choose the size, and we put it into a drawing, and we say, okay, we're going to use these tiles, and the layout of it is going to go from left to right, or from, you know, according to the design of the house. Also, we get very involved in the bathroom layouts where, a lot of the times where actually my sister now, because she's an architect, she'll want to do things that make sense and we want to do things aesthetically. And that's where we sometimes crash because we're trying to make it look nice. And for them, it's like, okay, it doesn't make sense if you do it this way. So we work very closely with the architects and make it work in terms of the bathroom fixtures, of where the bath goes, where the shower head goes, where the mixers go. So it's a lot of actually the harder construction side of things with the interior architect. So like I said, nothing to take away from the interior decorators. I work closely with a lot of them and I appreciate and respect their job. But that and let's say more onto the technical side of things as well.
Well, thank you for educating us. I mean, I don't know much about the industry, but you coming onto the podcast, I had to obviously do a bit of research. And I mean, even from my own research, like I didn't even know that there was a difference. I hadn't appreciated the amount of work that goes into it. But as I said, like for me, it's been very interesting because I come from a space that's not creative at all. And when I was given my own blank canvas of creating, Seize the Light, I was like, wow, there's been nothing in my life that's actually fueled my creativity at all, because it's been conformity, from school, you get good grades, go to law school, you go to law firm. It's been one long line of conformity. So when I was confronted with my blank canvas, I was like, wow, like this is really awkward, because even when I had to choose brand colors, I was like, oh, like I thought like it's just very simple, but it's like, no, it's not, because it's the first thing people see and all of these things that I was like, I would have never known the amount of work that goes into the small finer details. But it's interesting because I think for me, my first creative experience was like creating my Instagram reels on my yoga, right? So I would have to like choose the song, and like I was like, oh, this is really nice. Like I'm getting really creative. And again, that was still not even at the highest level of creativity. So, as an adult, how do you maintain the creativity? Because, within the mindfulness space, that's one of the things that people lack a lot of, is just accessing that creativity. So what do you actually do in your everyday life to make sure that you are actually harnessing that level of creativity required for your business?
For me, when it comes to that, it's all about growth. It's about being able to, every day when you see something, being able to appreciate, even if it's not something that you like, being able to appreciate or learn something from it. So you have to be very open-minded in terms of looking at things differently, having a different perspective, being able to see the beauty in things that you personally wouldn't use in your house or in your office or in your restaurant, but things that people have done and be like, wow, that actually looks nice or looks good with the way they've done it. You have to always have room for growth. And for me, that's number one priority when it comes to anything in life. You need to want to grow and learn from what's out there and taking it and kind of influencing it in your own design, in your own work, in your own life. So for me, it's about being open-minded and wanting to grow, than to keeping to your own style, your own way, your old own way, and just sticking to the old time. So you need to literally every single day be like, there are new things that are coming out. There are new designers. There are new cars. There are, and being able to see art in car, being able to see the art or the style in a building, or even the way they do landscaping. So you need to see the beauty in everything in everyday life, even in basic things that you do.
I love that. And, I want to build on that and ask the question, like, what type of mindset do you think you'd have to be in to appreciate the beauty in the small things? Because with the way that you speak, one, obviously your mind is probably very clear, because for you to even appreciate small things, you can't be too busy carrying on, because then you miss the small things, right? And being
Yeah.
open-minded is a difficult one, because a lot of people are set in their ways. And this is why I say, like, I'm really fascinated by the
Mm.
creative space, because it's that you have people who have different opinions, and they're actually okay to come to the table with their different opinions, or the different way that they're going to convey whatever message, or how they're
Yeah.
going to, paint their canvas, and accept that, Shaggy, your canvas is beautiful and I love that for you, but mine is also beautiful, and they can coexist. So that's one of the things I like about this space, is because a lot of things can
Yes.
coexist, even though I may not necessarily like blue. I may not necessarily like a blue shirt, but I'm like, you know what? I love that for you, and that's great. So yeah, how would you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what is your take
So,
on that?
in terms of being open-minded, um, you know, being open-minded, it is so difficult, like, because especially I feel like the older we get, you kind of set in your way and you want to do what's familiar. But what I've learned, once you actually accept the other person's opinion, like you say, or the other person's favorite color or favorite car, you learn something in that. So it's always being able to learn and to take something from it. I don't want to be so set in my way that I just totally disregard things that I actually am, that I'm not going to be able to grow with the times. So it's a bit of a difficult one, because you just need to accept art, accept the times as for what they are, and to be able to learn from it. You need even the smallest thing, just to take it and learn from. Maybe it's something that you don't that you don't agree to, but saying, okay, well, that's I love that for you, like you say, I love that for you, and this is the way I do it, and being able to express yourself. And that's the thing, you need to be able to express yourself and not be shut down if someone else has a different opinion. It's also especially with clients, because a lot of the times the clients come to us and say to us, you see, I want modern, but with a touch of classical, but yet they're also set in what they know, which is classical. And as soon as you bring in a bit of modern or contemporary style, they're like, oh, no, it's not what I asked for. And then being able to constantly take people back to when you get the brief, being able to say, this is what you asked for, this is what we're creating. And once people see it actually in the design and see it in, the house or the rendering or the 3D image, like, oh, now it makes sense. So people don't see it until they see the pretty picture. So it's just saying, okay, this is what you asked for, and I've created this pretty picture for you. So, and that's when a lot of people actually understand it, when they see that final product, when they see that final room or final design.
So how are you dealing with that, for example? Because I know, like, some people struggle, with seeing the final product. So what work are you doing to continue convincing the client that, it's all coming together, like there's method in your madness, and they just need to trust the process? Particularly, I'm interested in knowing, how do you deal with those really, like, rigid clients who are like, I want this, and you're like, yes, but I can also do this, and it's going to look better because I know what you want at a conceptual level, but practically may not necessarily work. So how do you navigate those more rigid clients?
Um, so what I've actually learned to do recently, and it actually comes with experience, you need to remind the client why they hired you. So you say to the client, you wanted an interior designer, and this is why I'm here to help you to achieve the look that you want. So you constantly need to remind the client why you are there. And to do that with SV Interiors, what we do is that we actually have 3 steps of dealing with a project. We have concept, where we show them our designs that we've done from the past, or inspirational pictures, or things that we would like it to look like. Then number two is your technical drawing. So when you take all those pretty pictures and then you bring out their layout and you put it together and you say, this is the size that we can do, this is the height that we can go, and you give them all the technical details. Then number three, like I said, is the pretty picture, and it's called the renderings and 3D images, where you actually show them, which is a realistic picture of the room or of the house, that this is what it's going to look like. And that's when it actually sells to the client, is when they see the final phase, which is phase 3 of the project, and that's the 3D image. If we just stick to those, and those phases take about 3 to 6 months sometimes, and the client kind of gets impatient and they just want to see the pretty picture, but we need to go through all those conceptual designs. We need to go through all the technical designs for us to make sure that it is going to work in the terms of custom designing items, and making sure that the color scheme goes and the mood boards all go hand in hand. So I think the 3D images make the biggest difference.
So that's how you manage to maneuver around those more difficult clients, by you showing them those 3D images, and that's how you're getting around hand holding until the design actually comes to life.
Yes, and also like I said, you constantly need to remind the client why you were there. If they want to, and this might sound a bit bad, but if they wanted to be their own interior designer, then take then you must take that work on yourself and do it yourself. But that's why I said it has come with a bit of experience and confidence, that you have to remind the client, hey, this is why I'm here. You've hired me, you've paid me for this job, let me do my job. And at the end, they're actually very grateful, and we become a lot of my clients have actually become my friends, and where they invite me to their homes afterwards and say, come for a meal, or come, we want to update this room now, or we want to do that. And you create those relationships, because you have to be open to the client. If you're going to agree with the client, say, yes, green and blue are going to look nice in this room, where it's not, you're just trying to keep the client happy. When that room comes up, or when that space comes up and the blue and the green are clashing, they'll be like, well, why didn't you advise me differently? Where that's why you're there. So you have to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with the client, and you have to just be true to yourself and stick to what it is going to work, and having the right motive behind it.
I love that. And, I think that there's a lesson that you can teach in how did you become that confident?
I don't think I am that confident. I think I'm still working on, I feel like there's obviously definitely room to grow within every department of self growth, or even skills. Being an interior designer, I still need to grow, and I feel like I should, but it's just like I said, with experience, you have to have bad experiences to have good experiences. You have to go through some bad things to be able to say, next time, we're going to have firm contracts in place. Next time, we're going to have different phases, explaining to the client, showing them exactly when they hire you, showing the client, this is what phase 1 looks like. This is what phase 2 of the project looks like. This is what phase 3 looks like. You just need to be very clear with people, because it's very difficult as a service provider to be able to, you're not selling a product. It's so easy to go and say, okay, I'm buying the cell phone, and you pay your money for it. Where just to sell a service, you have to, it's putting in a lot of time, and even those consultations people have to pay for, sometimes they find it hard or difficult to understand, because of your opinion of being there and consulting through those meetings, that they need to pay you for it. And the best way is, you have to be firm. You have to, at the same time, respectful but firm. And I think people actually respect that, and I think people will take you more seriously, because they'll know that you appreciate your time, and they need to respect your time and pay you for your time. So, like I said, it just comes with experience. I've been in the industry for
Yeah.
about 12 years or so, and you just learn, I guess.
So let's get into some of that hands-on learning, because me speaking to you, I definitely know that you've definitely been at the forefront of what you're doing. You're definitely hands-on. Um, so take us through that hands-on experience and what made you decide to found SVS Interiors? Because I think you did briefly touch on it in the beginning about wanting to express yourself, your
Um,
own independent creativity. So take us through that journey.
so working for different design firms, there's always a limit where you can go. You can't go any further because you work under a head designer, and the head designer will say, design this, do this, and you end up doing all the work, but the head designer goes and out and presents and meets the client, and they basically the face of it when you've done all the hard work. So being a Leo, that didn't sit well with me at all, because I'm like, hey, I do all this hard work and I don't even get to go to site and see the projects or take pictures of it. I'm like, that's unfair. So that is definitely one of the motives. And also, it is funny because it's just my character. It is something that, if I feel like if you worked hard for it, you should be the face of it, and everyone should know that. And it was just
Yeah.
before COVID, or just as COVID hit. My husband actually encouraged me. He was like, because I was so stressed and I didn't know what to do, and I was so scared of the company I was working for at the time, because everyone was just getting retrenched. Everyone was just getting retrenched. That, he said he just motivated me so much that, you can start your own company, you can do it by yourself. And it was literally at the start of COVID where I was like, okay, I'm going to start my own company. And I did. And in a way, I know I'm not for COVID, but it was a good time for me because everyone was in their house stuck, and everyone wanted to redo their houses. Everyone wanted to build, and everyone wanted to renovate. So it kind of did the trick, because I think I started at the right time. And also I say to my husband, if it wasn't for him motivating me, and if it wasn't for him giving me that confidence, I wouldn't be able to do it without him starting that.
I love that story. And I love that, through COVID, you came up with something, because it's been interesting that a lot of people have come out and said, it was a challenging time, but I managed to do this. Like for me, I had a similar story where, I was stuck in Sydney, Australia, but then I managed to requalify as an Australian lawyer, because that's how I decided to use that time. And then obviously I also honed in on my yoga skills, and then look today, now I found it sees the light. So it is interesting what COVID actually birthed. I do want to speak a bit more about your resilient mindset and how you bounce back from setbacks that you experience in your entrepreneurship life.
Um, Sorry, I just want to understand that question better.
Yeah, so in your entrepreneurship life, how do you handle any setbacks that you encounter?
Um, it's about having the right team and the right support. So, being as an entrepreneur, there's a business side of it. Being a designer, there's a creative side of it. Being a hands-on business owner is a different side of it to it as well. And I believe you need to actually have the right people in your corner. You do need to have a right team, and I'm been very blessed the past 2 years where I do have the right team, and I do have the right people that are able to, be the people that I need them to be. I'm talking about in terms of personal life, and I'm talking about in terms of SV Interiors. We've got a very group of talented young people, junior designers working for us. We've got even in terms of accounting, I'm always tell my husband how blessed I am for my accountant, to advise us on business ways of doing things. And just also being able to bounce ideas off people. I speak to a lot of people about new ways of, especially my suppliers. They've been incredible um, in completing the projects with us, and it's just been. Yeah, I feel like it's just all about having the right people and the right minds and the right hands in the right place at the right time.
I love that. Right people, right place, right time. And that there is a great formula. I really do love that you value your team, because having a good team is quite critical. And I do love that you also, work on your relationship with your suppliers, because yeah, we all know that it's you build sort of your own little ecosystem. And when you're going to keep seeing those people, you want it to be people
Exactly.
that you get on with, because you're going to keep circling around. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, you've told us all about how you're a very busy woman, and you wear many hats. Because that's also one thing that I've learned from you on this podcast. Because again, as I said, looking on the outside in, I didn't know how nuanced the business actually is. And it's great that you've come on and discussed, because you've educated me, you've educated the audience. But how are you managing your self-care, your mental health with this busy schedule that you have?
Only the past, I would say, 2 years that I've been able to realize how important it is to actually prioritize your mental health, the people you surround yourself with, the environment you surround yourself with, and a lot of it, I feel like it's like podcasts that I listen to like this, that a lot of them have motivated me. And also recently I've been reading books, entrepreneurial books that have really encouraged me, and they just, every time I read these books, they just set me on another level where I'm like, and I have to take myself back sometimes to the chapters where, like, this is what I need to learn. Once I read a book, I go back to it literally 3-4 times until I know, okay, to be able to be better at this, let me focus on this area, or let me focus on something that I need to do. Like sometimes even going for a walk, just and putting in a podcast and listening to it. And of course, for me, also praying a lot and having faith. And you just need to keep your faith really strong, and know that whatever you set your mind to, and if you have God in your plan, it will work.
I love that. And I love that you tap into the resources like your podcasts, just in your everyday life. I also have come to appreciate podcasts a lot more. I ditched Netflix a long time ago, because I realized you can spend so much time binge watching a series, but like what you learn from that series, you cannot even like equate to what you will learn on a podcast. And especially even if it's a personal development podcast or a business coaching podcast, you learn so much more. But it does come with maybe also understanding the value of your time, and also understanding the value of what you actually put into here. And then you realize, like, okay, cool. I did a
Exactly.
whole detox of certain things and certain people where I was like, can't have that. But it requires a high level of discipline that I don't know. I think unless you're on the journey, it's something that you don't know. You kind of have to experience it and then have that discipline to be like, okay, that's what I'm going to allow. And this is what I still have to develop on. But I, like you, also still have many areas that, I read a book and I'm like, okay, cool. I want to implement all of these things. Or even if it's just looking at other people's businesses and what they've done. And then you realize how much work you still have to do. But it's motivating, because you see if they've done it, you're like,
Yeah,
I can do it, and I can
100%.
add that stream, or I can do that. And yeah, I
Mm.
definitely resonate with surrounding yourself with the right materials, the right people. It's really important. So
Yeah.
um, I do want to pick your brain now on what are some of the changes that you see coming to the interior design industry. I mean, I don't know if AI is all the way relevant, but I mean, I'll leave that to you.
Look, I think it's definitely has to do with technology. innovation. And I mean in terms of, for example, having a home-free control IT kind of houses or spaces that that you can literally just set up a whole app on your phone and say, when I wake up, my coffee must be made to this temperature, my tea must be made to that, this window must be open, and that curtain must be open. If you set that, like, for me, that's mind-blowing. And I think it's things like that that are actually being not forced, but I mean, a lot of people, there's definitely a demand for it in the industry.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful that we can move with technology, because the thing is that, if you don't move with it, if you don't get along with it, at some point, what you have is going to wear out, and you're not going to be able to do with it. So you need to grow with technology as well. Like, a lot of houses are demanding a lot of technology that I'm not familiar to it myself. I'm still getting familiar to it, and I'm still learning a lot in that department. But I think it's mostly, it's just that IT kind of and technology space, homes or commercial spaces, like I said.
Okay. That's quite interesting. I mean, yeah, that is mind blowing that you'll be able to just tell your phone what to tell your coffee machine what to do. It's quite
Yes.
fascinating, all the changes that are going on. I mean, the most interesting thing I would imagine for me technologically was like the ergonomics in the office. That I was really like, oh wow, like standing desks and this and that. But obviously, like, you're exposed to a lot more. So that was quite interesting that will even be a possibility. I think that the viewers can learn a lot from you. So I do want to ask you, what advice would you have? And I want to separate the two, because at an entrepreneurship level, for somebody who maybe is under a lead designer and is like, look, I actually want to like go out and do my own thing. And then secondly, for a student who, or just actually anyone who feels creatively inclined, but may not necessarily be around people that support that kind of thing, or maybe might be feeling underestimated.
I always say you must be able to embrace resilience and adaptability. You need to adapt and always stay passionate. So you need to adapt with the times, move forward with the times, but also stay passionate and true to what you love and what you want to do. And in terms of even problem solving, you need to have that resilience in you, and have that passion in you to be able to do it the way you believe is the right way of doing it, and having the right motivation behind what you're doing. And I feel like once you have the right motive behind it, it's so easy to do things out of love, out of passion, out of care, and it's not going to feel like you're doing something extraordinary. It's going to feel natural.
So you're just saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day.
In your life. Yes.
I love that. And I do love that what you do doesn't even feel like work. I mean, on the outside looking in, it does look like a lot of fun. I know it's a lot of hard work as well, but it does look like it's one of those, I guess, I don't want to say funner careers, but I mean, because you're not stuck at a office cubicle, right? Because you go on site, you're interacting with a whole bunch of different people. So, I mean, just as we wrap up, what are the elements that you would say you enjoy most about your job? And maybe if that's at a business level, at a creative level.
So it's always high demand, but also high reward. So people always see the pretty finished room, finished house, finished space, and they're like, "Wow, I wish I could have that job." But my gosh, the stress that goes behind it, because you work on this project for literally a year to say, okay, and you chose these fabrics a year ago, you chose the colors a year ago, you chose the paints and finishes a year ago, and then you're hoping that when they're actually doing it, it is. And you have to keep checking yourself, that it is the right thing and you are doing the right thing, because in a year a lot can change, and clients do, they change their mind all the time. So we need to know, because there's about 15 revisions that we've done in a year. We need to make sure we're on the right revision of installing the wardrobes, walk-in closets, or the floors. So like I say, it's a very high demand job, but it's high reward, because once it's done, you're like, wow, like it sometimes actually doesn't feel real that you've done this and you've put all this together. And the best part of it is obviously when the client's happy, and when the client refers you to their friends or family or someone that needs an interior designer. So that's when you've really done a good job, is obviously the referrals, and just seeing how happy it makes people. And for me, that's also another aspect of it, is being able to see someone else happy and love their home and their space so much. It really brings me a lot of happiness. So for me, the high demand job is equals the happiness that it brings people, and that's what makes me happy.
I'm just going to delve a little bit more into, why do you think that make you seeing other people happy makes you happy? Because I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of jobs that they don't really see the end results. And I'll make an example, like when I was, in the finance space, it's high pressure, right? But we don't really see the end result. So once the money is gone to whichever company that, is being funded, I'm not necessarily going to see the employee's reaction. If the funding was for payroll, for example, I'm not going to see their reaction when they get paid. So yeah, why do you think that is the case for you?
I don't know how to explain that, because it's always been me as a person. I love buying people gifts. It's like I rather buy someone else something, because I know I just want to see them happy, than getting something for myself that I know, oh, it's nice, but I'll use it a few times. And I don't see it that way, where seeing someone else brings me a lot more happiness. And I don't know how to answer that, because even in my personal life, I don't know, maybe I'm a giver than a taker, and I love giving. I love
Yeah.
giving other people not only, let's say, gifts, but in terms of advice. Sometimes when a friend comes, or even I've had my junior designers where sometimes it gets personal and they want advice for either their relationship or their family. And then they say to you the next week, it really worked what you said, and it really had an effect. And just to see that, it really gives me so much joy to being able to help other people.
I love that, and I understand why you can't explain it, because I also am in the same sort of boat where I started Seize the Light to help people, and when I say that, people don't understand what I mean. And it's like, it's hard to explain,
And
because it
sometimes
does sound a
people
bit
look at it,
cliche or cheesy, but I think it's just that.
yes. And sometimes people look at it and be like, "What? But why are you doing that?" Like they question you, but why would you do that? Like, are you trying to get something out of it, or you trying to? I'm like, no, it's just that I'm just not that I'm doing the right thing, but it genuinely makes me happy to see someone else happy.
Yeah, I think the thing I love most about your business is that it's heavily focused on people, but at the same time, you've balanced your ambition, you've balanced your creativity. So it sort of encompasses a lot of the things that are giving you the fulfillment. And I think anybody watching the podcast can see you thoroughly enjoy what you do. And it's something that I think a lot of people should aspire to, because I also never realized that, I'm not fulfilled or using my full spectrum of potential, because I've sort of siloed myself in the one thing. And again, that's why I told you I'm
Mm.
very invested in that. creativity, because I think when you've been on a very like dogmatic path, you may not necessarily be using all your skill sets or all your capability, and then you might not realize why exactly you're not feeling fulfilled. So that fulfillment is found in the strangest of spaces, but it's really nice to hear how you've merged everything into this one project, like your baby. It's not a baby now, it's more like a child, because you founded it in 2020. This child is walking, but it's just amazing to see. And I think it's a story that a lot of people will take motivation and encouragement from, to be honest. I know I do, because I do remember your first post on you starting a company, and I thought, wow, like that's really great. I didn't know the backstory behind it, but again, on the outside looking in, again, we would think, oh, that's so easy. But now I do know better. So you definitely have more of my respect now. But yeah, I think it's really great.
Thank you so much.
I'm just going to turn it over to you as we close out. If there is anything that you want, you're welcome. You're welcome. I just want to turn it over to you before we wrap up. If there's anything that you do want to leave with the audience that we may not necessarily have covered. We've covered some amazing points from an entrepreneurship perspective, from a personal perspective, from a creativity perspective. So if there's any messages or takeaways that you would like to leave with the audience, I'm just going to give you a chance to do that.
Just from if it's ever been a dream to you to want to own your own company or want to go out and be a tennis player, if it's your passion, if God's planted that seed in your head, if there's that passion burning desire inside of you, there's a reason for that. And I believe that you should go after it 100% and put your heart into it, put your soul into it. And if it, like I said, it's about having the right motive. And if that is the reason that you are doing it, there's no ways that you can't be successful. There's no ways that you and I'm not saying this that I am the most successful, that I still want to be more successful. I still want to grow more, but there's a reason that burning desires inside of you, and you should definitely go after it. Whether it's going to happen now or in 10 years time, it's always God's plan. And if it's there, there's a reason that it's there.
I really love that. And, most of the work that I'm doing at Seize the Light is trying to connect people back into their purpose, because, again, it's easy to get distracted by the outside noise, by the societal expectations that may not necessarily be aligned with what you're meant to be doing. And you'll have that like little voice, because I know I did have it, where I was like, I don't necessarily see myself behind the desk for the next decade, because I just know it's not me, right? I'm a person. I love doing things like this. I love connecting with people, but the nature of that job doesn't necessarily allow me to connect with people the way I want to, or show up the way that I want to. And then I had to have a tough conversation with myself. But that obviously comes with going against the grain, because people are like what's happened?
Yes.
Like, you become a whole different person.
Exactly.
It's like, it's not really that, but I know what you mean about that little voice telling you,
Yes.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Shaggy, for your time on this podcast. I've definitely learned much from you and about your industry on this podcast. And I'm sure the audience as well will take away valuable lessons from the podcast. So I'm going to now wrap up. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Lantern Podcast. If you want to get in touch with Shaggy, her details will be in the description section. And yeah, you'll be able to have a look at her website and all the amazing work that she does. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of the Lantern Podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Seize the light within yourself with love, the lantern.